Investec Property Fund is the Investec Group's most recent foray into the property fund business.
Exactly, and most recent because in the history of the Investec Group, they did Met Board, then they did Growth Point. Okay, that's enormous. That's been shoved away and has now got its own life. But this is their most recent attempt. Not an attempt, their most recent effort in this space, because they're certainly succeeding. Remember, they fund a lot of deals in the property sector, so they've got the opportunity to do those on balance sheet and then pop them into a listed entity.
Just saying that again, market cap here 6.9 billion rand and a yield of 3.1. Are you going to back the big boys in Investec backing of the property fund?
I think you've got to back Investec Property Fund. I mean, the track record is outstanding. I mean, the two Sam Leon, Sam Heckner, they really are the story of the company. I mean, you've also got now Nick Riley in there, very young. From all from what I've heard, this guy's literally a machine. He's a CA, CFA. He sleeps 5 hours a night and just is born to make money. So I mean, you've got to back that team. The only probably concern of ours is that with Investec backing, they're going to get good deals, but at the same time, the way that most property companies are structured when they're still in their growth phases is that you have the manco and the external manco and the fund, and eventually they've got to internalize that manco. When Investec does that, they're going to whack you with R1 billion fee for it. They're building this company on risk, and they're going to want their fee eventually. That's the only sort of thing that we've got on the horizon for the company. Otherwise, solid team, solid portfolio, definitely like it.
Do you share Gary's slight concern about the fee that will ultimately come at the end of the day?
Yeah, so the way that might pan out could be interesting because the Investec directors, Stephen Kosev in particular, have got big interests in this fund. And Investec itself owns quite a lot of the units because they sort of brought it out and birthed it. And then subsequently they've done a bunch of raisings and issuances and so on. There is a tendency also and a potential conflict of interest. Say they are working and funding a development within their own property development team. It's only once it reaches its sort of mature value that they pop it into the fund. So you constantly have that issue. They're not going to give the fund bargains because they're different shareholders at work here. If they do internalize the property management function, I guess that would be an interesting, conversation as well, because again, then you have to try and work out who benefits and whose interests are at work here. But they're doing it all over again. I mean, I've got a friend who sold his family investment portfolio for about 700 million into this in exchange for Investec property units. Now he's on the board. But they just are unstoppable. And as Gary says, this Nick Riley guy sounds like like a shark with a fistful of answers. So, I'm sure they're going to continue
Nick Riley into studio. He sounds like such a machine. Let's talk about the performance here. As we say, this is unstoppable in Paul's words. Does that mean it's also unstoppable when it comes to performance?
It suffered from a bit of illiquidity in the stock because it's so tightly held. But I don't know, Gary, what do you think?
I think it's one of the ones that hasn't quite run away yet, and I think you've still got a good entry on this one.
Hot or not?
I'm going to go hot with Investec Property.
Paul, hot or not?
Yep, hot on it too.